Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 372 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. I'm your host, Anthony Renna, and the show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. All right, this is our last episode of the year. So for the StrengthCoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner, I spoke with Coach Boyle about the last year. We did our year-end interview, and we did a review of the biggest changes in the past year and maybe what some of those challenges were, his plans for the year ahead, his favorite book of the year. Talked a lot about partnerships, and that has a lot to do with the biggest change in the past year. We talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the importance of having a great manager. That and much more coming up in a little bit. For the Naamly Maximizing the Member Experience with Sumit Seth, founder of Naamly, Sumit's going to talk about consumer decision paralysis, which is often created by too many choices, and how it can be a hidden hurdle in crafting the best member experience. All right, guys, the Perform Better holiday sale has been extended until January 3rd, up to 40% off so many items, including Ultimate Sandbag, TRX trainers, all kinds of bands, med balls, plyo boxes, dumbbells, barbells, bump plates, racks, and more. Check it all out at PerformBetter.com. This holiday sale extended to January 3rd. Lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, guys, now time for the StrengthCoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. Don't forget, you can try StrengthCoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to StrengthCoach.com for your 7-day free trial. Coach, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We're doing this right before the New Year, so how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right. So this is our end of year episode. We usually do this and kind of talk about similar topics. So we're going to start that off. And although we talk to you twice a month about what you're doing, there's always something you have brewing. So we're going to talk about the year ahead in a minute, but just looking back this year, the biggest change or impact that maybe you had at MBSC?
Well, truthfully, the biggest change was Bob retiring and Steve and Kevin and Vinny and Dan buying a piece. And then as they were trying to get another kind of quarter of that done before the end of this quarter. So I think that's the biggest change. Is I think there's some, I guess, mental relief to thinking, even though I wasn't there a lot, I was always worried about not being there. And I'm trying to relieve some of that. And I think that's just something that as a business owner or a business partner or whatever it is, that it's really hard. Because I guess one of the things we're doing now is we're sort of setting the script for people, how are people going to retire in this field? Because not a lot of us have done it. And so when you're very used to putting in a lot of time and kind of scoring your effectiveness almost based on how many groups you take or how many people you coach, it's really tough to back away. With that said, Steve and those guys will tell you I'm doing a really good job. I have been there less and less. I'm there 2 or 3 hours a day, and that's pretty much it. Some days I go back in the afternoon, some days I don't. So, but that would absolutely positively be the biggest change, is the beginning of this transition.
Mike, it's funny because I have this down anyway about partnerships, because I was talking to a young lady today, I know her husband, and he went out on his own, and I kind of keep encouraging him to get his space instead of renting from other people, like, different spaces or going to homes. And I'm like, you're ready. And she wants to be kind of the administrative part, kind of like to your Bob, and I was talking about partnerships, and the best partnerships that I've seen is like whether it's you and Bob, or like a Cressy and Pete, or Rachel and Alan, where people have specific roles, defined roles, and each person respects the other person's role or knowledge in that role, and really doesn't spend a lot of time trying to interfere. So I just wanted to talk about how it's been going with the boys, because we let's be honest. Like, if you took a look at, if I would have said, if you would have told me any other place, I'd say this is a recipe for disaster. 4 coaches now are added to the mix. And they're really, for the most part, from the outsiders looking in, would say they're all just coaches and they all doing the same thing. How are you going to manage that? So how has that part been going? And we had all the boys on here to talk about their those roles, but how has that been going?
Actually, it's been going pretty well. One, they have an incredible business coach in terms of Carrie Burns, Carrie runs our business now. And she was gradually doing that when Bob was there, taking over just more and more. She's like a super can-do, take charge kind of person. So she's been really good for them, because it's somewhere between having a team mom, a scoutmaster, and a business coach all kind of rolled into one person. And she does an amazing job with those guys of kind of helping them out, keeping them on task, saying, hey, how are we dividing this up? I think it's gotten a little bit difficult because Steve is doing most of the business, because it just didn't make sense for 2 people to be trying to kind of in QuickBooks all the time and trying to figure that stuff out. So
Yeah.
Steve has probably taken on the largest non-coaching role. Those other guys have continued to coach. And I think, they're going to find their way a little bit. I think there's been a little bit of like, okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? How are we going to keep dividing this up so that it's equal? Because it is, truthfully, and I knew that, it is a little bit of a prescription for disaster, because you've got 4 people, and we talked about this right out of the gate, that are going to be looking at each other all the time and thinking, okay, is Anthony holding up his end of the deal here? Is he doing what he needs to be doing? And no matter how well these guys get along, or how much they like each other, if that starts to get way out of whack, it's going to create problems. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to keep 51% for a while, because ultimately now I'm still the managing partner, I guess, if that's how you want to approach it, in the sense that I have the final say. I try very, very hard to not have the final say. I want them to be able to figure everything out and do whatever they need to do. But I guess if it gets to the point where somebody kind of has to break the tie or whatever, or make a decision that we can't agree on, that will be me. Excuse me. Even for me, I rely really heavily on Carrie, because she has a really good business mind. She's been in business for a long time, but she kind of got out, raised her kids, and then hopped back in with us maybe like 8 years ago now, just in a very small role, but her role has continued to expand. I always tell everybody, she's my boss. She runs the business. She tells everybody what to do. And she's always like, no, I don't. And I'm like, yeah, you do. But in a really good way, because she gets it. She's one of those people. She cares. She comes in. She spends a tremendous amount of time there. And she's always kind of one thought step ahead of us, or at least one thought step up, even with me.
It's interesting that you talk about her in this way too, because I think that is a really important piece. When you look at Alan and Rachel, and what they did was they tried to get, for example, Craig was doing programming and Elias was doing sales. And so they had these little department heads, and having Carrie in there almost as a mediator. Like, even if, because let's be honest with you, it's kind of like you're trying to get out anyway, so you'll relinquish a little bit of it anyway. You're just kind of like, okay, cool, let's let Carrie do that. She's been doing it for a while. Great. These guys might be a little hungrier and might be like, hey, we want new ideas in here. Whereas Carrie can be that mediator. I think it's an important piece if somebody's going to come in with that.
It's a huge piece. Honestly, it is. It has been the key piece in this transition. I can't say enough good stuff about her. She never listens to any of this stuff, so she'll never know I said anything good about her. But at the same time, she really, and she's one of those ones, because like her oldest is probably 24. So these guys are not that much older than her kids. And she's pretty good about saying, hey, this needs to get done. Who's doing it? Very much like, I got 4 kids in the room and I'm saying, all right, let's split up the jobs. Who's going to do this? And she doesn't, it's not at all condescending, but she's very good at just saying, even sometimes someone will come up with an idea and she say, okay, that's a really good idea, but you have to execute on the idea, because like she always says, I can't, I don't want you to come up with an idea that makes more work for me. I want you to come up with an idea that makes more work for you.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
Which again is really good, because
Yes.
most everybody, Dan and Vinny and Kevin are still doing a lot of coaching. Kevin is still running Movement is Medicine. He's still doing all the CFSC stuff. So they're all still really active. And then they have to look back and think, okay, am I pulling my ownership weight? Now, right now, ownership weight at 6%, it's not that heavy, right? Between them. But as it gets larger, then they've got to look at it and think, okay, what, am I doing my part?
Yeah, and I was going to say, and we talked to Kevin about this too when he was on, and like for example, with Movement is Medicine, CSFC, Kevin will, can not on purpose might veer towards some of the responsibilities and the roles of those responsibilities, and he might veer towards those and then neglect. And Kevin's not that kind of person, but you know what I'm saying, like just from the perspective of even
He's
accidentally.
he literally has his own businesses to run. And that's
Yeah.
what I mean. So you need to have, I think, somebody. Carrie has done really well in terms of being in the middle of all of that in a really good way.
Yeah.
And those guys have done a really good job. They meet every week amongst themselves, and I don't go and I don't meet with them. I'm not, it's kind of like, I'm looking at this saying I'm selling part of the business because I want to do less. I'm not selling part of the business because I want to go to more meetings.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, I'm really facilitating it for them in this next portion of the business, and then we'll figure out kind of where it goes from there.
Yeah. Mike, has there been anything that's really kind of started to impact you from the programming perspective this year? Or something that you feel like, for example, the year before when Marky you were really focused on a lot of ACL stuff. So some of the stuff changed, blah, blah, blah. So was there something this year that you felt like you have been focusing on that we might not have always been hearing about?
Right at the end of the year, we had David Gray on, and I've talked to you a little bit about David Gray and David
Yeah.
Gray recap. And we've been playing around a little bit more with some of his ideas as it relates to kind of single leg hinging, the single leg, one leg, straight leg deadlift kind of stuff. We've really been, I think, more than anything, and some of it's because of the Thrive stuff we're doing and the LA Fitness project that we've got going, but we're really trying to dial in the adult programming because, and we've said this a million times on this podcast, adult programming is the largest portion of our business, but we don't probably put as much time into it as we should relative to athlete program because we like athlete programs. So you're always thinking about the athlete program and what the athletes are going to do. And I hate to say it, the adult program sometimes is a little bit of an afterthought. So between some of the stuff that we've been thinking about with David Gray, talking to Sean and Bruce with Thrive, what Jess Tolman has been doing a really good job with programming, trying to integrate some of the stuff into what we're doing with our adults. So I think that whole process is allowing us to kind of upgrade what we're doing from an adult perspective, and upgrade is in some ways downgrading in the sense that we're probably looking and saying, okay, we need to make this simpler. We need to stick to our progressions. I think we got into a little bit, not necessarily of entertainment, but of just being a little bit random, just switching. Okay, we're going to this phase. We'll do an ISO phase. We'll do this phase. And now we're trying to okay, let's be organized. Let's really look at this as an annual plan. And it's really hard to look at an annual plan when people are jumping into that annual plan at random spots. Like someone can jump in anytime they want into our adult program, and we've got to figure out how do we integrate that person in while continuing to provide a really good program and a really good stimulus for people that maybe have been there for years. So that's been, I would say, the biggest area of emphasis.
Yeah. It's funny because I train really all adults and not as many athletes, and one endurance athlete right now. And they're all older. And the thing that I've really think that I've benefited from was just doing athlete light with these adults because they play pickleball, they play golf, they do whatever. And they're all still athletes in their head. So every single person I actually bring a 4-pound medicine Dynamax ball in. That's my own because the gym doesn't have it. And every single person throws med balls. Every single person does some form of jumping. I wouldn't call it plyometrics, but jumping. And even I've even done with the skill mill sprinter, like a Woodway curve type thing.
Yeah.
Run, sprint, jump, throw version with all of those people. A lot of people are I'm still doing the big movements. It's not, and I'm looking around the gym and everybody's still doing splits. Believe it or not, they're still doing splits with some people who are only coming in 2 days a week. They're doing a leg day and an upper body day. I'm like, it's 2 days a week. It's crazy. But I think having that background, so I think, when you say, oh, we're really focused on the athletes, I still think focusing on that program and then bringing it down to people still nobody. I'm 57 in March, and I'm not giving up. I'm still saying I'm an athlete.
And that's exactly the what we're trying to tackle, is in terms of, okay, plyos, jumps, whatever. Okay, how simple, how hard, what can we do, what can we not do, what backfires on us, because sometimes we'll throw stuff in and it just won't work. And we've been talking about, breaking our plyo rules, squat jumps before box jumps in some cases, because even though box jump, we always talk about reducing gravity, it's easier because you don't decelerate due to gravity. You're not experiencing the acceleration due to gravity. But the box or the hurdle or whatever, really intimidating when there's an obstacle involved. So yeah, we're still doing exactly what you said. If you walked in, you'd be like, yep, it's the athlete program. Foam roll, stretch, dynamic warm up, like I said, jump, throw, sprint, but we don't sprint. We don't run our adults at all. We'll do some tempo runs, but a lot of times with the adults, we're almost backing them off like, whoa, it's a tempo run. It's a stride. It's not, we've had to do, and I think we've mentioned this, but we had to do things like we have to turn our timers off, because as soon as they start running in the timers, they start looking at their time. Even if they're doing tempos, like we have people doing tempos through the timers and they'll look and they'll be like, oh, 1:07. And then the next time they'll try to run through it faster. It's like, turn the time. It's like all these automatics, like turn the timers off. Don't let these adults start becoming competitive. And then it was funny, Dan threw in some sprints maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and literally the first day, a guy pulled his hamstring. And I was like, why did we put, and he was like, I know, I just thought, maybe.
Yeah.
We got this one guy limping around who pulled his hamstring, and it's like, in some cases, when you do have that really broad age range, you've got to go lowest common denominator. And again, that's not perfect, but that's what you have to do, because you can't look. Because again, I would, if you were in the gym, right, you're 57 years old, you're looking at it and thinking, I'm in good shape. I was an athlete. I can still sprint. And I'm looking at it thinking, at 57, you're like prime Achilles tendon tear kind of guy. I don't want, I'd be thrilled to see you go and blow off 10:20s on the bike or 15:45s on the bike or whatever it is, because we can get that high speed, high power output, big leg turnover, but not the connective tissue stress. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. The other thing we're doing, we really are trying to work on getting our adults to condition more. Our adults love to not condition. They love to come in, and we've done a good job with roll and stretch, because they have to do it before they get there or before they get into the weight room. But when they're done in the weight room, it's very easy to egg, the old
Italian exit.
Yeah. What was that? Who was exit stage left in the cartoons? Oh my God, I'm trying to think. It was like one of those guys, one of those animals in the cartoons. So I was like, exit stage left, and we get a lot of exit stage left.
Mike, I actually, that you say that, like, I do like the skill mill / Woodway sprint, because I'm monitoring the miles per hour, so I can see that. Also, she's a little younger, 640, and she is a triathlete, so I can do it with her. But I have done on certain days bike sprint, jump, throw. So I get on the Airdyne and do some sprinting on the Airdyne. So I do some jumping.
Do all the time with with anybody that's hurt.
Yeah.
So like yesterday, Mark's group, three sprints, 3 whatever, like 15, 20, 25 yard sprints. If guys are saying, oh, I'm a little sore, whatever it is, okay, go in on the bike and bang out a half a 10-20. Just give me 4-10 on 20 offs. Just get, and get it
Yeah.
up to the RPMs. Because I remember hearing Dan Paff talk about that one time training. We had a sprinter who had been injured, and he said, we just bike sprinted the heck out of this guy. He said, and he literally hit the ground running. He said, I couldn't believe how good he was when we got him back and let him start running again. The fact that he was doing high speed, high power, high turnover really does make a difference. I commented on somebody's Twitter post the other day because they were talking about things to do and not to do with knee osteoarthritis. And it was like, don't tell people they're bone on bone. Don't tell people not to work out. Continue lifting. And I was like, and buy an air bike. I don't care whether you're buying a Salt. I don't care if you buy an Airdyne. I don't care if you buy the new Perform Better knockoff. The air bike to me is the fountain of youth, because you can get people on there and you can get really incredibly physically intense intervals, things that really stress your heart, really stress your musculature. And as a zero orthopedic cost, I'm going to say that dreaded term again, get myself in trouble.
Mike, with my clients though, one thing is, you said, going back to what you just said about getting them conditioned more, sometimes I look at it like, what can I control? I can control some of the zone 3, 4, and 5 stuff, right? Obviously, those are, we can do some, a little Airdyne finisher or whatever. It's just some of the other stuff that we're going to have to rely on them to do on their own.
Yeah. But the one thing I've always found, the average fitness person will do zone 1 and zone 2 on their own. Like, I hate those are the ones I hate. Yeah. I don't love for a walk. Joe and I did a zone 2 bike ride yesterday. And the whole time I'm on there, even only a half hour, I cursed the whole time. Like, oh my God, this sucks. I hate it. It's so boring. But the average person will do that stuff without any prompting at all, which is, if you go to you're at a normal gym now, you go to the normal gym, it's like everybody's in zone 1 or 2. You rarely see anybody in 4 or 5. It's really unusual to see the average. And that's what Joe Squizero and I were talking the other day about the Andy Galpin Huberman podcast, where, Galpin was saying, just once a week, get your heart rate up, get above 90, get in the red. And people always talk about above 90. Above 90 is not that easy. Either that, or I'm not nearly as good a shape as I think I am, because for me to get in the red, real red, I got to work my ass off. Like, I hit red. We did 4 1-mile intervals on the Airdyne. So 4 2.5 minute, basically, intervals. And I think I hit the red on the end of 3 and the end of 4. And that was it. I probably spent a total of a minute above 90. And I was pushing. But I think a lot of people don't know what their max heart rate is, so they think they're higher than they are. I think most people could go way higher.
Yeah, agreed. Coach, was there a book, what was your book of the year, or 1 or 2 books for you that you felt like was really like, hey, because you've done that so many times in the past.
Unreasonable Hospitality was absolutely the book of the year.
What was it called? Reasonable Hospitality?
Unreasonable Hospitality.
Why?
It was just the one that I really kind of devoured. It was the one that I was like, oh my God, this is so, and it's a restaurant book. So, the guy we've talked about, he worked for Danny Meyer at one point, and and it was just, I thought it was one of those things that absolutely reflected back into strength and conditioning or not strength and conditioning, our adult fitness business in a really good way, in terms of just talking about overextending yourself on a regular basis, on, really trying to think, how do I make this experience better than great for people?
Yeah, that and working for Danny Meyer is, that I forget the name of Danny's book that that was really good. What's it called?
Setting the Table, I think, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he really set the standard early on with understanding like those little things about the customer CRM, right? That customer retention management, that about, getting all that information, coming up and saying, hey, Coach Boyle, how you doing? Good to see you. And, bringing over a couple of Bud Light Limes, like knowing what your drink is, or knowing that it was, how's Michaela doing in Minnesota? Like, once those waiters find that out, they put it in the system, blah, blah, blah. He was way ahead of the game with all that stuff.
Yeah. And honestly, that's what we push. We really emphasize that with our staff, and our staff's unbelievable. Like, one thing, and that's, I always feel bad because I'm always pushing them to be better, but they're so good in terms of people constantly comment on whenever they visit, the friendliness, the number of people that meet them at the door, greet them, ask them, who they're looking for, where they're going, what they're doing, go out of their way to talk to them. And that really that's what creates the experience. And I think that's why we continue to thrive. Maybe if you look at other fitness businesses like ours have not had that success.
Yeah. I mean, and knowing the 4 guys that are taking it over, you're in good hands, because you probably couldn't find 4 nicer guys.
You're absolutely right. And I think that, again, that's a big part of why it was those 4 guys. It's, but plus they've stayed, they've coached, they've spoken at conferences, they've done everything that we want them to do. And all of them, their clients, one thing that collectively they all have together is all of their clients love them.
Yeah. Awesome. Mike, what about the year ahead? I mean, what is it that you feel like, you at MBSC right now, like as a coach?
Remember Maxwell Smart Get Smart? You're
Yes.
old enough to remember that show.
Yes,
I'm
of
looking
course.
for like the cloak of invisibility. You know what I mean? I'm just, I have no more business goals. I'm not looking at anything and saying, hey, this is what I want to do next year. What I want to do is continue to exit. I want to continue to
Yeah.
get myself out of there. I don't have because it's funny, this is the time of year, I was reading Sahil Bloom's kind of year-end stuff and talking about goals. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not. And, if I sat down and would, and wrote out goals, it would be the number of days I wasn't going to be at work. And the number of speaking engagements I wasn't going to do, and the number of books, field related books I wasn't going to read, because I'm at the other end. I really am. And I'm comfortable with, hey, I'll speak when I feel like it, when it's convenient, when something is particularly enjoyable, and I'll write, or I'll do social media, or I'll do whatever I want if I feel like it. And I'll coach when I feel like it, when kind of the spirit moves me. If I've got people in there that I enjoy coaching, then I'll coach, but I really want to try to continue to make this transition and to get to something that, and not that looks like retirement, but maybe that looks like semi-retirement. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, honestly, it does seem like that now anyway, compared to, I mean, you're that workaholic. You were the guy. You've talked about it in your seminars with Cindy in the early days and how much you worked. And then you always move forward. It's funny because, as the consumer, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, as the mentee, is there somebody, you were my mentor, and like, part of the reason why we looked up to you was that you were always working on, besides being the regular guy, was that you were always working on getting better at spending time with Cindy, going to the games. It's always, I got to pick Michaela. Michaela's got a game. Marky's got a game. But right, awesome. That's the goal. And I think you've always been, but you still were working, StrengthCoach.com and books and MBSC and certified. You, over that period from like 2006 to 15 or 16, was absolutely insane. Right. And so even now, from our perspective, we're like, yeah, you don't see Mike doing as much, but you're still doing more than the average person.
And that's probably true. And I just would like to continue to, I guess, we talk about this all the time. It's kind of the, the imposter syndrome thing. I want to get comfortable with doing less. I want to get comfortable, not feeling like, oh, I have to do this, or I need to be here, or I should do that. Even with speaking, I feel bad. I'm letting Chris down if I say I only want to do Providence for the summits. But it's kind of like, hey, at some point you have to stop doing everything for everybody else and start doing things for yourself. And I think for a long time, for me, there was that constant insecurity, that constant fear of, letting people down. And so you're always going, and you're saying yes, and you're saying yes, and you're saying yes. And now I'm trying to comfortably look at things and say, no, I'm not doing that. Nope, not interested. And just think, okay, I'm going to just take my time here and do as much as I'm comfortable doing during the course of that day. And I'm not going to feel bad about coming home and laying on the couch and taking a nap. And I'm not going to feel bad about sitting in the hot tub. And I'm not going to feel bad about going home early. I'm going to just be like, okay, this is my new life.
Well, I think, part of it is that you've always kind of come from a place of gratitude. So if we look at Chris, you understood, hey, Chris gave me a great opportunity to speak and make a lot of money from each, like, gain followers, gain, book sales and StrengthCoach.com sales or whatever. So you want to help him out. Same thing with me, whether, early on when I was helping you with behind the scenes StrengthCoach.com stuff, you would do whatever. Okay, well, I got to do this for Ant because he's helping me, right? So you've always come from that place. So sometimes that's why it can be hard to say no, I guess.
It is. It's really hard. It's hard to just look back and think, okay, what's best for me? What's best for, it was easier to figure out what was best for the kids, but not always what was better for me. And maybe not always what was better for Cindy. So that's what I'm trying to focus in on now.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Coach, we'll let you go on that. Great stuff. Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you very much, as always. I appreciate everything that you do.
Welcome to Naamly's Maximizing the Member Experience segment. My name is Sumit Seth, and I'm the co-founder of Naamly. And today, we're going to dive into a hidden hurdle in crafting the perfect member experience. It's decision paralysis. That moment when potential members walk in and are greeted by a myriad of choices, leaving them stuck, unsure, and often leading to that notorious objection, I need to think about it. For those of us in the industry, the gym is a haven for health and wellness, but maybe a tad overwhelming for newcomers. Too many options and too many routes to take. It's like standing in front of a buffet with hundreds of dishes. Sounds amazing, but where do you even begin? Here's the thing. The key to delivering an outstanding and memorable experience lies in keeping things simple. It's about guiding, not overwhelming. Think of professional coaches making a recommendation rather than leaving all the decisions to their clients. So where can simplification make a difference? Everywhere. From the gym layout to membership options, let's streamline the entire experience. We can even start with clear signage, making it easy for newcomers to navigate the gym without feeling like they need a treasure map. Simplify membership choices. Instead of offering a dizzying array of packages, focus on a few key options that suit different needs. Professional coaches should step in with personalized recommendations, understanding the goals and needs of each member. Less choice, more guidance. After all, the adage, a confused mind doesn't buy, is very much true. Let's talk equipment. Quality over quantity, right? Instead of cramming every inch with machines, select versatile equipment that caters to various workouts. It's about functionality and efficiency. And of course, classes and programs. While variety is fantastic, too much can easily overwhelm. Streamline the schedule, highlight a few signature classes, and ensure they're diverse enough to cater to different fitness levels. And let's not forget how much easier this will be on your team. A unified, knowledgeable staff makes all the difference. Once everyone understands the simplified approach, it'll be easier for them to guide members rather than leave them stranded in a sea of choices. This is especially true when we have staff that don't like to do admin tasks and the situation gets out of hand with part-timers. Ultimately, simplicity is the key to an outstanding and stress-free experience. By simplifying options, delivering professional recommendations, and creating a streamlined environment, you're making it easier for your members and your coaches to take that crucial step towards a healthier lifestyle. So let's simplify, guide, and watch as decision paralysis becomes a thing of the past. This is your pathway to creating an exceptional fitness haven. All right, then, this is Sumit Seth, co-founder of Naamly, and that's exactly what we do, simplify the entire member experience. This being the last episode of the year, I also wanted to wish you all a very happy holiday season. And as we enter 2024, remember the main theme from today's segment: keep it simple. Let's make 2024 the year of fitness.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 372 of the Strength Coach Podcast. The show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. Don't forget, StrengthCoach.com has a 7-day free trial. Check it all out at StrengthCoach.com. Special thanks to Chris Pryor and the folks over at Perform Better. Don't forget, the holiday sale has been extended to January 3rd, up to 40% off so many items. Sale items include Ultimate Sandbag, TRX trainers, all kinds of bands, med balls, plyo boxes, dumbbells, barbells, bumper plates, racks, and more. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Thanks to Coach Boyle for giving us a little extra time, for sharing his insights and philosophies into the world of strength conditioning and performance enhancement. That's going to do it for this episode. Happy New Year to everybody. My name's Anthony Renna. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.